G'day and welcome to the Game Day Squad NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Dill, that's Stu, and we are the Fantasy Bros. We are back again, partnering with Game Day Squad to bring you all you need to know to succeed in GDS Rugby League this season. Stu, it's Wednesday. You know what that means. Teamless Tuesdays dropped. Some big things happening in the world of NRL and some late mail as well around some injuries. So I think it's pretty important we take a deep dive into the round 6 GDS squads. Before we do that, though, how'd your squad go in round 5?
Yeah, g'day Dill, g'day viewers, g'day listeners. We got Sif Kanga here joining us. G'day, mate. And as always, Melissa's here as well. Hello, Melissa. Thanks for joining once again. Yeah, mate, look, round 5 for me was a little bit better than previous weeks. I managed to get back on the podium there, 3rd place in Challenger, which is always nice. I'm still in the top 20 for 3 of the 4 big comps. Obviously eliminated from the GDS Cup last week. So my focus returns to obviously that top 20 or top 10 across the 4 competitions. And my best rank is currently 9th in Challenger.
Nice.
How did you end up, mate? Still alive in the GDS Cup and flying the flag for the Fantasy Bros, I hope?
Yes, I am. I definitely am. Yeah, I had a win in round 2 of the GDS Cup, so I'm progressing to round 3. But that just means the pressure continues to build for me. And as we said last week, we're at a little bit of a disadvantage because we show our hand quite early to our opponents. But that's okay. There might be some late changes come the beginning of the round. It is my main focus now. It's all I'm thinking about and all I'm looking at. Done a little bit of research on my opponent this week as well. So I'm pretty keen to jump in and have another win in round 3. I think outside of the GDS Cup, I think my results show that my main focus is on the Cup. I finished just outside of the top 20 in all comps again. I just can't seem to break that 20th spot. My best, I think, at the moment across the overall competitions, I'm sitting about 30th in champion. So still got a bit of work to do, but I'm not too far behind, only a couple of 100 points. And that's just a couple of decent pods. So yeah, hopefully my luck turns around this week, but I continue building on that GDS Cup.
Yeah, mate, the season's still very young. Plenty of weeks to go, but yeah, the GDS Cup's certainly your priority. So is it fair for me to say that Tallad's Turtles back in round 1 was probably tuning into the show and had a good idea of who I was going to run out and threw a couple of pods out there that benefited him? I'm going to run with that, and that's why I lost back there in round 1. So yeah, good to see that you're still flying the flag for us too. If you win, it's a bit of a win for me as well. So
yeah, definitely.
Don't forget, guys, we'll be coming to you live every Wednesday night. So make sure you subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. That's Fantasy Bros AU, so you don't miss out on a thing. We'll discuss all the important start-sit questions of the week. We'll reveal who we're starting in our starter squads and some of the big pod plays for the week as well. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to all of our socials. We're on Instagram as well. We're aiming to post a little bit more on TikTok as the weeks get on as well. So make sure you go give us a follow. That's Fantasy Bros AU. We've got plenty of content, plenty of pack giveaways and card giveaways throughout the season as well.
Yeah, and it's definitely not too late. As you said, plenty of time to jump into Game Day Squad. Whether you are brand new to fantasy or you are a seasoned veteran, it's pretty easy. You just go and download the app or visit the Game Day Squad website, create your account. While you're doing that, chuck in that promo code FBRL25. That will give you 3 9-player common packs to get started. And I saw in the Discord the other day, someone posted a common pack that they had opened and they hit a diamond Nathan Cleary, which is probably one of the best cards in the game outside his legend. So easy to do, easy to get those packs, and you never know what you might open. So jump on, get involved. There's plenty of cash each and every week as well. That's the best thing I think about Game Day Squad, is that you can clear your rubbish team from the week before and you can go again knowing that you can still win plenty of cash prizes as well as some packs to build on those squads. And as we've talked about quite a few times, we've seen a number of players just start in that starter team, build up their bronze and have a win there, and then that starts to build their classic team and so on. So even if you're brand new to Game Day Squad, there's still plenty of opportunity to build that side and to win a few prizes and money along the way. So definitely jump in, get involved. Mate, for those that are new here, do you want to let them know what the plan is for today?
Yeah, will do. Adam Gregson is definitely not new here. G'day, Adam. Thanks for joining in once again. And Sif Kanga, my man, you can join me on the sidelines. No more cup for me, he says. Sad day for him, but he's trying for the top 3s now. You're right, mate. we can focus on the top threes now. Yeah, Dill, like always, we'll go through our start and sits for the week. We'll reveal who we're going to start in our starter and champion squads. And of course, we'll give the viewers some cards as well through a little showdown segment at the very end there. So make sure you stay tuned and see what cards are on offer and see if you can claim some of them yourselves simply for commenting on our video once we're done.
And that's exactly right. Make sure that you do comment and you chuck down who you might be starting. If you've got any start sit questions that we might be able to help you with, please feel free to put them into the comments. We love to get involved with the community. And just on that as well, I saw Mel there earlier. She has commented, and I want to give her a little bit of a heads up, a little bit of a spoiler for the Brodown showdown later on. We have changed it up this week, so there is no way that I can pick Hines this week. So that'll be a relief to some of the viewers there. Alrighty, talking about GDS Cup, Michael Cozzi there, extremely lucky to get through to the next round. He had 2 players not even take the field. So you must have had a pretty good team going into that, Cozzi. If you're able to do that, that's a little bit of talent there. Talking about the GDS Cup, we've mentioned over the last couple of weeks, we've talked about it quite a bit already. The round 2 has completed in the GDS Cup and winners have been notified. We've halved the coaches now. We've got 128 remaining. So congrats to everyone who has made it through to round 3. On the screen there, you can see a breakdown of the prizes. So we've obviously got round 1 and 2 in the books. Round 3, we are playing off for a 1 by 9 player common pack. And also on the screen, you'll see a couple of team names there. Matrix Reloaded had the highest score of the round for anyone in GDS Cup. And then We Won Once. Unfortunately, he was the biggest loser. He got a score of 921 and got pipped by about 3 or 4 points there. So he had the highest score, unfortunately, in a losing side. So unlucky for We Won Once, but it just shows sometimes it's all about the matchups. It's not necessarily about scoring the most points.
It's a cutthroat competition. Yeah,
that's right. It's all about just scoring more than your opposition. Remember, though, the big prize that we're all playing off for is that last coach standing, that round 9 prize, which is the 2025 prize card. You'll be the 33rd pick in the prize card draft, which is unreal. You do not want to miss out on that, as well as that event that I'm sure we'll be involved with come end of season as well. Alrighty, let's jump into it, mate. Enough chit-chat. Let's get straight into it. And the ever-frustrating hooker position is up first. Where are you looking at, mate? Where are you going?
Yeah, probably back to Blake Brayley for me this week. The J&K experiment from last week didn't quite pay off. He wasn't as amazing as we sort of hoped. But he doesn't look like he's any closer to locking in that 80-minute role either, which is really disappointing of someone of his caliber who if he's getting 80 minutes, could certainly put together a nice big score for our game day squads. But back to Blake Brayley for me. Wade Egan could be another shout as another one of those blokes. There's not many hookers playing the full 80 minutes, but he is one that is playing the 80 minutes. He's also nicely on top of the averages there. He's the only hooker averaging above 50 points. Everyone else is in the 40s or below. And who would have thought we'd be saying that 5 weeks into the competition? I probably would look at starting Wade Egan this week, except for one reason, and that's because of his matchup against the Melbourne Storm. Looks like the most difficult matchup for hookers. I think you've got some numbers on how many hookers are actually averaging against the Melbourne Storm, but I presume it's got a bit to do with the sort of tight defence through the middle, the likelihood of an increased missed tackle count, particularly when, Pappenhausen, Munster, Hughes, Harry Grant are taking off after a quick play the ball or making those half breaks and some tacklers are falling off. So any other week, I'd probably look to just say, okay, I'm playing the number one hooker by 8 or 9 points per average in my squad, but not this week. So I'll sit one more week and watch Wade Egan's game nice and closely, but I'll run out Blake Brayley. He's been really good. He's been tackling a lot. His tackle efficiency is really high. He's not running as much as someone like Wade Egan or JMK, but he's getting the job done. Plenty of tackles, and we always know that he's not far away from an Adam Fanua-Blake crash over play close to the line, which would be an easy try assist and line break assist. How are you looking for the hooker position, mate?
Yep, I'm going the same way. I'm looking at Blake Brayley, and for pretty much exactly the same reasons that you touched on. He's probably one of the only consistent hookers I think around. As you said, Wade Egan is a bit of a shout, but the only problem is they come up against the Storm, and that Warriors Storm game. I've got a few points on that later on as well when we get to the halves in particular. But that matchup is just so tough for Wade Egan. comes up against the Storm. They've allowed an average of 27 GDS points to hookers, which is the lowest in the competition.
Wow.
So you were right there around them just not allowing anything through that hooker position. And the other one on the other side of the field there that lines up against him is Harry Grant. And I think I'm just completely off him now. He's still averaging almost 18 points in demerits per game. And if you compare that to someone like Blake Brayley, he's only averaging 9 points in demerits per game. So we know that Brayley's averaging more in base stats per game compared to Grant, and he's keeping more of his stats as well. So I think I'm just going to stick with the safety in Brayley. I may sprinkle in JMK again in a couple of squads just for that potential against a vulnerable Panthers side, maybe. The Panthers have allowed 41.5 average to hookers, which actually has them ranked first against hookers for points allowed. So there is an opportunity there for maybe JMK to step up. But you're right, the minutes is the concern. He had 65 last week. His game was decent, but not spectacular. So, yeah, probably the safety of Blake Brayley, and then maybe a sprinkling of JMK if the Dolphins have a big game up against the Panthers.
Yeah, I think if you're playing a Harry Grant or a JMK, and they probably got the more attacking upside than Brayley, particularly with their running game. Even if they have a big game, like if they crash over for a try, it's not going to be a massive score ahead of Blake Brayley. You know, Harry Grant's already so many points behind him just because of all of those demerits. So you're not really going to lose a lot if Harry Grant has one of those big pop-off games, but he just hasn't shown enough. He doesn't need to. He's playing in such an elite team that he's quite happy to sort of just pass from the ground and back up where he needs to and make his tackles. But yeah, nothing special so far. So it's really not someone that we need to jam into our squads. I'd want to see it once or twice before he becomes a permanent fixture in the squad. But yeah, Hooker's pretty boring, mate.
Yes.
Let us know in the comments section, guys, if you're following us with Blake Brayley. We've got some other names there on screen like Tommy Starley and Api Coruscant. Again, two hookers that have been in tremendous form through most of their games, but again, just not getting the minutes. We've seen Api come off at the 25 or 30 minute mark. Starling's only getting his 50 or 55 now. And again, that'd be two quality hookers to throw in our squads as well if they were getting 80 minutes. But time on the field is just not there for a lot of these blokes.
Yeah, that's right. And they've got to do a lot of work then to make up that difference in points. And we saw Coruscant last week have a pretty big down game against Broncos as well. So, you know, he wasn't really used effectively and he's not scoring as well as what we've seen in the past. So, yeah, like we said a few times over the last few weeks, we prefer our hookers to play 80 minutes and they've got every opportunity to score as many points as possible. So, yeah, Blake Brayley's the safe option. And then if people wanted to go with a JMK or a Harry Grant, I would have passed them. And I think you're really brave if you're going to play someone like Wade Egan. I think this week, like you said, any other week, and I'd be happy to run them out. But yeah, not this week, not for me.
Right, mate. Moving on to the middles. For me, 4 of these middles are pretty easy for me. Obviously, we're starting 3 on the field, and then we can play up to 2 on our bench if we like. For me, Payne Haas, Terrell May, AFB, and Isaiah Yeo are locks again, once again this week. They've all had sort of their down game, apart from maybe Terrell May, who's probably been the most consistent. He's not currently the top of the averages just because of how good Payne Haas was early on. But we even saw a down game from Payne Haas in this week just gone. We've seen down games from AFB and Isaiah Yeo, but they both bounced back either side of those down games with some pretty big scores as well. So not really concerned that any of them are really losing their gun status, particularly because of just the work they get through. If we look at some of the numbers, they're currently ranked 4 of the top 5 middles based on averages, with only Tapade ahead of Isaiah Yeo. And it's obviously not surprising to see Haas and AFB on top of that list with tackle breaks, 28 and 22 between the two of them. And that's super close to the top in the comp. I think Herbie Farnworth has about 35. So Haas is only 6 tackle breaks off the best tackle breaking center in the game, who's even got more than Teddy as well. Look, the 36 that Haas scored on the weekend was pretty poor, but the ref blew his whistle, I read, every 3 minutes. There was an infringement or a stoppage every 3 minutes. Obviously for errors, yes, but for penalties and that sort of thing as well. So there was no sort of flow or momentum in the game. Xavier Willison obviously scored 2 tries pretty close to the line as well. That could have been Haas's on any other day of the week. May and Yeo are also in the top 3 and 4 for total tackles. So they're obviously getting through plenty of work as well. So those 4 names are pretty easy for me. I think we might just have to have a bit of a debate across for the 5th player there, if you're happy with those 4. For me, I think Joe Tarpanay any other week would probably be in big consideration here. My big concern for him and a few of the other Raiders forwards is that they're traveling to Darwin, and it's going to be pretty hot and muggy up there. We know the boys from the ACT like it pretty cold and chilly, and it's going to be anything but up there in Darwin this weekend. So they even struggled up in North Queensland a couple of rounds ago when the weather was pretty similar. So I just think that heat is going to really deteriorate or deflate some of the middle forwards, particularly Joe Tapine, who's obviously been in a bit of form and obviously puts that team on his shoulders quite a bit. We saw that, when he gets Simbin and he gets pretty fiery. Great player. He's probably going to be someone in contention for a middle spot pretty soon, but I just worry about that heat and if he's going to get a few extra minutes off the park to freshen those legs and get back out there for the second spell. So any other matchup probably would be him. It's probably a good thing that the Eels have opted to bring the Raiders up there. Probably the one team that would be least suited to those conditions. I think they've played like the Cowboys up there in Darwin previously, which is pretty silly given those conditions are the same. So they're a bit more switched on this week, aren't they, with asking the Raiders to come up there for their Darwin game. But no, that spot for me at number 5, I'm probably just going to play it safe with Connor Watson again. We obviously saw he start this season with 2 really solid 80-minute performance games when he scored 2 tries in one of those as well, and probably got him just ahead of Max Plath at the moment, but I really need to see Connor Watson getting back closer to that 80-minute mark. He obviously got the concussion and didn't return for about a 39-minute game. He then returned the week just gone for 66 minutes. The game was in the the game was really close with about 15 to go, and he was still taken from the field when they probably would have needed his, tackling and his leadership and his go forward. So I'm surprised that he did only get 66 minutes in that close game. So that is maybe a concern. Obviously need him on the field tackling and running the ball in that lock hybrid, that hooker lock hybrid role for 80 minutes. So hopefully he'll go back up there. We saw that the Rabbitohs came back toward the end of that game. So maybe the coach realizes that Connor Watson needs to be on the field for as long as possible. So I think a few people might get off Watson based on his last 2 performances. So I can see a little bit of pod value there. But look, I don't think he'll miss out on too many points compared to Tapine or Plath if he leaves the field after 65 again. But I just see a bit of upside there if he does get the 80 minutes, and he'll be tackling all day against that big Broncos pack, and he's pretty good close to the line as well.
Yeah, I like it. And I agree. Those 4 names, Haas, May, Yo, AFB, I think they've done plenty to show and put themselves out there to be worthy of a start across pretty much everybody's team. I don't think many coaches are going to go off those 4. And it's probably important to note as well, you touched on it at the start of when you were talking about the middles. We do talk about 5 middles because we do have 3 on the field, and then we've got those 2 forward bench spots, and we generally like to play middles in both of those bench spots. I've seen other combinations, whether it's a second hooker or a second edge, but we just feel that there's a lot more consistency and a lot more safety in playing 5 middles. The likelihood of them scoring a little bit more than hookers or edges is a little bit more consistent for us. So we would prefer that. Obviously, if you want to play a third edge or even a fourth edge and be really risky, that's completely up to you. And that's a risk that you can take, and that a risk that often pays off, if you make that decision correct. So that's important to note, that when we do talk about our 5 middles, we are referring to the 3 on the field, and then we use our 2 bench spots there. For me, it was a toss-up between McInnes, Watson, and Plath. Obviously, you touched on Watson quite a bit there. McInnes as well. He had a decent game last week. The problem for me is I want a better idea of how many minutes he's going to get. He's got 3 games under 60 so far this season, and then 2 just over 60. So it doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence. And he's moving, since moving to the Sharks, he's played Manly twice, starting at lock, and he's scored an average of 37. So that doesn't fill me with any confidence either, knowing that they've got to face off this weekend. So I think based on what I'm feeling and what I'm looking at in terms of stats as well, I think I'm going to go Max Plath. The other thing for me, on top of some of the potential concerns for Watson and his minutes, is also that the Broncos are pretty good at defending the hookers and not allowing too many points to hookers. We know that Watson moves to lock, but in terms of majority of his gameplay, or majority of the time he's on the field, he has been spending it at hooker. And the Broncos have been allowing an average of only 28 points to hookers this season. So that's probably the other concern for me, is that the Broncos defense has been pretty good, and we've seen that across a number of games. So I'm looking to roll the dice on Maxi Plath. He goes into lock, which we haven't really seen too much of. He did have a little switcheroo a couple of games ago with Gilbert, where he moved to lock and Gilbert moved to the edge. And so this is how they're starting at the moment. I could see him potentially playing that hybrid role as well, where he starts at lock, moves to edge potentially. And if he does that, I kind of love that probably opportunity for him. He might even be able to get closer to that 80-minute role as well. That we've seen him play before. Across the first 5 games, he's averaging 72 minutes. He's played 3 games at the full 80, so we know that he can do it. He's also averaging 46 in base points, which is probably a little bit lower than some of the middles, but then he's got that try-scoring ability. We've seen him cross the line a couple of times, and it's not really in a set play as such. It's more finding the line from a broken play and some a potential opportunity there, and he's just sniffing out the ball. So I really like that about him. He just really wants to get the ball in his hands, and it doesn't matter how he does it. So yeah, for me, I think I might go Maxi Plath. The other thing I really like is obviously they come up against Penrith. Penrith are pretty vulnerable right now. They've allowed 140 points to be scored on them in actual NRL this season, which puts them 4th worst defensively behind the Cowboys, Roosters and Eels. So even if Maxi doesn't find the line, we know he loves to. Even if he doesn't, he should rack up the base stats and hopefully get me a decent 50 plus, just to put that safety on my 5th middle.
Yeah, plenty of base there for Plath. PPM sort of guy playing in the middle there. The only issue would be falling off some tackles. I think he missed quite a few on the edge sort of early on. His tackle efficiency is getting a little bit better. We obviously saw Tommy Gilbert. What did he miss? Like 12 tackles a round or 2 ago. So if he's getting shown up there on the edge, they might just do a little bit of a switcheroo back there as well. But yeah, Plath through the middle. He's getting close to that 70 or 80-minute mark. Should be plenty of base. He's got a nice PPM, and any attacking points he finds would just be a little bit of a cherry on top. So yeah, sure. Hard for me to split the two. I'll probably find two in one. One of them across 2 comps, and the other one across 2 of the other competitions as well. But yeah, it's just that fit spot that might be a little bit different for a lot of coaches.
And that's where I guess some coaches will potentially pot up, particularly my opponent in the GDS Cup might look at that and go, yep, you beauty. I'll jump on Watson and hope that he has a big game. So yeah, it'll be interesting to watch that 5th middle there. Alrighty, let's move on to the edges. And there's some decent options this week. Should we start with the elephant in the room, in the man Toby Couchman? How unreal has he been?
Yeah, he's been good. And don't be fooled, everyone. He does have the, for those watching the YouTube, the live show, he does have the non-active logo next to his name, but he is in fact active. He is in fact playing for the Dragons if you've missed him, and you may have missed him because he's been going about his work really, really quietly, but really, really well. He's slowly climbing up the top averages for the edge forward position, and he's actually playing in the middle for the Dragons. So he's spending a lot of time in the middle of the field, and the rotation through the Dragons is quite interesting. They're playing a 4-prop rotation, meaning obviously the 2 starters and the 2 on the bench. Now he's sharing the bulk minutes with the least minute prop on the bench, and the other starting prop forward in Clemmer is sharing some minutes there with Hamish Stewart at the moment while Gula is out. So he's been getting, between 60 and even 69 minutes in this match just gone. So he's really someone that we need to look at. And it's not just because of his minutes on the field, because of what he's doing in those minutes as well. He's got a really big tank. He can obviously go for almost the full 80s. He hasn't been tested yet at that distance, but there's probably no reason why he can't. But he's just been tackling a lot. He's been running really well, which is obviously what we expect from middle forwards. But in the last couple of games, he's shown us that he's got the ability to break tackles and throw out the offload. I think he made 3 tackle breaks and 3 offloads in the weekend just gone, or it might have even been 5 offloads. 3 offloads in the match just gone. So he's really proving that he's not just that out and out, punch it up the middle, play the ball and go off after 30 minutes and then come back on for another 30-minute stint. He's working really hard, but being really creative as well through his running and his offloads as well. Now, he would be an absolute starter in my team, except for the fact that I don't currently own a bronze Toby Couchman. So anyone out there, here's a public announcement, a public call out for anyone that's got a spare Toby Couchman bronze. You probably want one too, don't you? So
I do want
we might
one.
need to ask for two here. I don't know how many exist. I don't know what our chances are, but he's straight into my starter side in that edge forward position if I can get my hands on one of his bronze cards. You might want to add a little bit more shortly, but another bronze card that I don't own that I'd love to play in my starter squad is Sua Wong. He's been really impressive, particularly in his last couple of games. He started pretty poor with some sort of bad defensive reads, and it sort of almost looked like that he might be on the outer. But every single week, there's an injury to a Roosters middle or a Roosters forward that keeps meaning that his role is more and more secure. Yeah. There's obviously a bit of a threat from Nat Butcher, who has played a lot through the back row, but he's now being named in the front row, given the long-term injury or the moderate-term injury to Lindsay Collins. So there's really no issue around his minutes moving forward. He played the full 80 minutes and was just about man of the match in that match just gone against the Rabbitohs, and he was outstanding. He had 3 50-point performances in a row, but then he pumped out an 80-point match just before, just the weekend gone, and that only included the 1 try assist. It wasn't like he scored a double and that's why he got the 80, but just the 1 try assist on top of a heap of base. 43 tackles, 3 tackle breaks, 5 offloads, 135 running meters. That's really impressive. So another guy that is playing really, really well on the edge, who probably isn't highly owned, given he's not a household name in the fantasy landscape at the moment, but also probably because there aren't many bronzes out there. So 2 massive edge plays that I probably will be playing across my challenger and my champion squad, but just won't be able to fit them in the starter because I don't own a bronze card.
Yep, and just on Toby Couchman as well, I've got a couple of platinums of Toby Couchman. So if anyone does have a spare bronze and wants to do a trade, I am happy to throw out a platinum Toby Couchman for your bronze. So hit me up, mate. On him, he is unreal. Like you said, playing in the middle for the Dragons, but slotting into the edge in GDS. I think that's just a little bit of gold there. We talk about players playing out of position in GDS, and we've gotten on a couple so far this season, and they've produced for us. The 2 games he started at prop, he's played 70 minutes and 69 minutes. So that's huge as well, as you said. He's averaging over 50 minutes across off the bench as well. So that's still quite a decent run and a decent opportunity to score points off the bench. We don't see bench forwards often getting over 45. So that's a good uptick for him as well. In terms of points, he's averaging almost 50 in base, and then really limiting his demerits, which is awesome to see. I think he's got a tackle efficiency of 97% and then he's made only 3 errors across his 4 games. So he's just got one of those really fantasy-friendly games that he just racks up those points. And then, like we spoke about last week, if he falls over the line, you are absolutely cheering, and you'll probably win your week in GDS Cup if you do have a bronze and you do play him. Unfortunately, like you said, I don't. So I'm going to stick with 2 players that I think will go well. And the first one is Ali Katoa. I think he's set for a massive game against the Warriors. Jerome Hughes is back. We saw him slide back into the team last week. And if he does stay on the field and Ali Katoa stays on the field, I feel like history might repeat itself. And I've sat through plenty of games where the Warriors have been put to the sword from the Melbourne Storm, and I'll talk about that a little bit more soon. The Warriors obviously have a weaker left side defence, allowing an average of almost 50 to all right side attacking players, and Katoa's been travelling along quite nicely. He's averaging 55 GDS points, which has him ranked 6th at the moment. However, 2 of those 6 players in that top 6, they're actually sitting this week, and that's Lucas and Preston. So you'd be looking at someone like Hudson Young or Nicholson above Ali Katoa there if you're looking in terms of averages. In the 2 games last season that Katoa played against the Warriors, he averaged 50 fantasy points against them. So there's definitely that opportunity there for him to go above that, particularly running off Jerome Hughes. And the player that he's running into is Kurt Capewell. He's missed 25 tackles so far this season. He has not looked good in defence at all. So I could see probably 1 or 2 from Katoa this week running over the top or in between Capewell.
Yeah, I like that, mate. Eli Katoa for me as well. Similar reasons. Leaky Warriors left edge, link up with Jerome Hughes. He's only going to be better after that match he just played last week after coming back from that hand injury. And he's been going about his business really, really nicely. We haven't seen him a lot, but he's still scoring pretty well, which means, he's only that one game closer to a nice big game where he finds 2 tries and 80 or 90 points, and that could come this week. And when he runs over the top of Kurt Capewell a number of times. I like it.
Yeah. My other one that I'm going with, I think I just have to stick with Hamole Olakalatu for one more week. He's averaging just less than 50 points per game, which might seem as a bit of a pod. People might be off him a little bit after what he's done, but he's got the most tackle breaks of any edge forward this season. He's also got the 4th most missed tackles, which is obviously where that sort of less than 50 average has been coming from. He's averaging 36 in base with then an additional 16 points through those tackle breaks per game. So I think that's pretty decent stats. And then if he can find some further attack on top of that, in terms of getting over the line, a try assist, something along those lines, I think, again, I'd be pretty happy with coming away with his 60 points for the week. I think Manly are playing well. It's not like they're playing out of their skins well. The problem is that they have been playing well at home. They obviously travel this week, which we haven't seen them go too well when they have travelled, and there's a bit of a curse behind that, I guess, for the Sea Eagles. They don't travel too well, but they do match up against the Sharks, who have allowed an average of 53 GDS points to right side edges. So I think there's an opportunity there. There's a potentially a vulnerability through the Sharks left edge in terms of defensively, where Hamole might just get over the line or might get a try assist to the outside, something along those lines. So I'm going with him one more week. If he doesn't produce, then I'm probably going to be off him for a while until I can see some better results there.
Gee, Manly don't like travelling. They're not going to enjoy that flight over to Perth, are they? That's a long way from home. But yeah, the Sharks, who they come up against, weren't great last week, and it was Matty Nicholson on the right there that really took advantage of some flimsy defence. He broke 3 or 4 tackles on his way to the line for that first try and had a really big match himself. So yeah, there's definitely some frailties there in that Sharkies defensive line, and I'm sure Cherry Evans and Hamole can take advantage of that. I don't have the numbers to back this up or prove this, but it just seems like Manly are a little bit worse across the park when Turbo's not there. Obviously, when Turbo's fully fit and he's not limping around with a knee or a hamstring concern, they're rolling down the field. They're making breaks pretty frequently. Teams are on the back foot. Teams are offside. And that's when Hamole seems to do a lot of his damage. Cherry Evans sort of just goes, here you go, mate, run over that half there and score a try, or I'll put in a little kick behind here and for you to score. But without Turbo there, that momentum down the field, the getting the opposition team on the back foot, just probably not quite happening as much as usual, and therefore they're not really getting the roll on, and it's not sort of allowing Hamole to take advantage of that the defensive line sort of a little bit out of shape, or the smaller blokes getting back on side and that sort of thing. But obviously, as damaging as anyone on his day. Any attacking sort of stats on top of his base is only going to make him a really good play. For me, I'm probably looking at Angus Crichton just ahead of him for my second edge if I don't have a Couchman or a Wong card, particularly for something like the starter competition. It's not because I'm expecting big things from Crichton. I've just liked what I have seen, and he hasn't really been amazing so far. We've still seen him average 50 points. He hasn't scored a try yet all season. I know they're playing the Broncos, but we saw how poor the Broncos' defense was, particularly on the left-hand side there from the Goz. He sort of fell off a couple of tackles pretty poorly against the Tigers, and the Tigers still managed to score about 24 points against the Broncos anyway. So Angus Crichton can run the ball really well, obviously loves tackle break and an offload, just like Sua Wong. I think their edges are going to cause the Broncos a lot of concern. With Jaden Hunt on the other edge there as well. We know Adam Reynolds is a little bit hampered by that injury. I'm surprised he's not having a game off to rest and recover. That could come back to bite them, if he's not 100%. But even if Crichton doesn't score a 50 or a 55 point in base, probably isn't going to be too far beyond the top performing edge. But an attacking sort of stat or two for this game for Crichton probably wouldn't surprise me against a couple of those edges that he'll be up against.
Yeah, I like it. And there's one more name there on the screen, in Hudson Young. If you were going to play a Raiders player, would you go with Hudson Young, or would you go with Matty Nicholson in the form that he's in?
Yeah, probably Matty Nicholson. I think Hudson Young probably relies on the attack a little bit more than he does. He's probably got the better attacking upside. We saw how he sliced through the Sharkies defense there in the 80th minute, which was the catalyst for them scoring the try on the other side of the field. So he's definitely got probably the more attack in him. He's also got the more errors, and he's probably got less base as well in terms of his tackling. Nicholson is just a workhorse. He's also moves across the park as well. He plays some minutes through prop as well if needed, and he just works and he's just nonstop all day long. He's also got the ability to break tackles and score tries like Hudson Young does, probably just not as frequently, but we play our fantasy sports with safety. It's going to be a hot and humid game up there. They're going to be probably doing a lot of tackling, probably not going to be doing too much offensive work in that sort of battle up there. So I'd go for the safety in Nicholson. But Hutto's on top of the averages for a reason, or nice and close, of the players available this round. So yeah, he's obviously been going really well, and he can score tries. And if he scores one this round, it certainly wouldn't shock me either.
Yeah, I agree. And I couldn't believe the way that Hudson Young just stood up Nicorette in that last play and just got on the outside just so easily. It was ridiculous. I thought Nikora had a bit more speed than that, but good win for you boys. And I thought you'd spend a little bit more time talking about that and boasting about it, but no, it was a good win at the end of the day. Alrighty, let's move on to our halves, and we've got some similarities in our halves. Obviously, couple of the top players there in Cleary and Hines. I know that you're debating Hines and one of the players that I've got, and you're going a little bit different here. Do you want to kick us off with why you're playing someone a little bit different to me?
Yeah, Jamal Fogarty this week for me. Sort of went away from him last week, and he had a really nice solid game without being fantastic either. He had 672 kicking meters. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if there was a 7 or an 8 next to his name at some point this season in terms of kicking meters. Absolutely loves to roost the ball and put ball to foot. And we know that the other players in that team have, almost 0 next to their name for kicking numbers. So his base with just kicking alone and tackles are what's really impressing me. He's averaging 26 tackles a game, and he's only missing, 1, 2, or 3 across his 5 starts as well. So it's not like he's getting a whole heap of demerits because he's making so many tackles and he's falling off a lot as well. He's actually being solid in that department as well. So when you factor in 26 tackles and let's say 500 or 600 kicking meters a game, that's a really safe floor. And then you add on to the fact that he's, the chief playmaker here. He does a lot of the kicking close to the line. He throws that lovely short ball on both sides of the field. He doesn't just park himself on the right. And he obviously kicks conversions as well. So he's got the full package to have a really nice, solid floor. We probably won't see him ever, reach the ceilings of like a Cleary or a Hines or a Hughes. But in a tough week like this, I don't really back Hines in. He's been mediocre like the Sharks. A 40 or a 50-point score is sort of seeming what he's sort of getting at the moment. And I just think there's a bit more upside in Fogarty. He's not going to have a low score because his base is really nice. And you and I both know that I've obviously got there's a red tinge to my Jamal Fogarty. I don't know if you've got the same tinge on yours. Probably not. Definitely but that's another reason, another one of the main reasons that I'm slotting him into my team this week. They also play the Eels. If there's one team that you're going to score points against, it's probably them.
Yeah.
Zach Lomax is out. We'll obviously probably talk about that during the winger segment as well, but you might have heard the news he's out for 6 weeks, everyone, which means their go forward is going to be pretty poor. They're not going to be making as many yards, through his ability, his power, his offloads, his tackle breaking. So I think the Raiders that's a huge out for the Eels, and the Raiders are going to be on the front foot a little bit more often, meaning, the likelihood of some attacking stats increasing for Fogarty. So clearly the no-brainer for me, Jamal Fogarty ahead of Nico Hines. And then for me, it's Hines or Hughes. So how about you talk me through why you're playing Hines and Hughes, and I'll see if I can come up with an option from those two.
Yeah, I guess Hughes is my main one. I'm definitely set on Hughes. Okay. And I don't know if I can convince you otherwise on Hines, but I'll do my best. Look, Hughes, I think he's going to have a massive game. We saw him sneak into the starting squad last week. He did go off after 70 minutes, but I don't think I have any concern with that at all. And he matches up against the Warriors that we've seen plenty of times before. Since 2020, these two teams have played each other 8 times. The Storm have put on a combined 324 points in NRL. That's a 50-point game. That's a 70-point game, a whole bunch of 30s, and a 40-point game. I remember sitting through every
Wow.
minute of that 70-point game. I did not turn it off, and I regretted every single minute of it. But I had some fantasy players playing, so that was the difference that allowed me to get through it. But during those games, Hughes averaged 64 fantasy points across all of those games. So he's obviously a go-to for their attack, and I think their attack is going to be pretty much centered, as we've already talked about, with him and Ali Katoa there down the right side. And I guess to add to potential woes for the Warriors, they're allowing an average of 51 GDS points to right side halves. So it's not like they're defending that side of the field well, as we've already talked about. So I think the Storm are going to have a massive game. I think the Warriors are going to get blown out of the park. It's going to be a bit of a back down to earth for the Warriors, who are riding high after a couple of good wins, and then a nice relaxing week on the bye. We got a win against the bye as well, which is good to see. But I just think it's going to be a back to earth type game here, and the Storm are just going to roll us, and Jerome Hughes is going to be a big part of that. And so maybe I've convinced you to get onto Jerome Hughes potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. At least a Storm half. Obviously Cam Munster's been playing some really nice footy as well, and I think that's taken away from Jerome Hughes a little bit. We know how impressive he was last season, obviously winning the Dally M, and being alongside Nathan Cleary as just about one of the halves that you wanted to play almost every single week, particularly in those sort of last 8 to 10 matches of the season. Just having a look at some numbers for him, but I know he's only played 3 games this season, and one was sort of impacted by the hand injury. He's had only one full 80-minute game this season, but his kicking meters are down quite substantially from last season. And I know that's not the way he scores his points, but we know that Cam Munster was obviously impacted last season through that sort of glute or that hip injury. He still took the field, Cam Munster did, but it obviously meant Jerome Hughes was running a lot more. He was steering the team around a lot more, putting in a lot more of the kicks, both downfield and then close to the line as well, whereas Munster was sort of catching and passing and probably not sort of running and commanding as much ball. We just have a look at some of his kicking numbers: 275, 255, and 224 this season. Regularly last year, he was, well above 300. There was a number of 400, 450 sort of kicking meter games. And while it's not a huge amount in terms of points, it's just pretty clear that his role is a little bit different now, that there's sort of more of a line share, the ball going both left and right. We saw Munster scored a really nice try last week, and Hughes obviously laid on a couple. But Hughes, hasn't really had that big match yet that we're so used to seeing, and maybe that's going to even out a little bit more compared to last season. So as long as we're not expecting those sorts of numbers from Jerome Hughes, but everything you said about the matchup with the Storm versus the Warriors is certainly very tasty. Is there a case for maybe squeezing 2 Melbourne Storm halves into your side, so you're guaranteed whatever happens sort of down the left and the right?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, you go back to that 70-point game and everyone had a big game. I don't think anyone in terms of fantasy had a down game. So if that happens again, which history says it probably will in some form, I might even do that in one of my squads just for a bit of a laugh and get Munster and Hughes, and maybe they both have a massive game. Yeah,
right,
I like that call. I might do that. In terms of Hines, I agree. Hines is such a tough one because he hasn't lit up the competition yet at all, but he's still the 4th best half in terms of total points scored, and then 6th for average. So he's still doing enough to sort of be in that range, and he's only missing out, between that top spot and 6th by a few GDS points. It's not too many at all. He does go up against an inform-ish Sea Eagles side. Manly been good at defending right side halves, only allowing 37 GDS points. So there's another issue there potentially for Hines. The third issue that, maybe for Hines as well is Trindle seems to just want the ball more and just seems to be hogging the ball a lot more than what we've seen in the past. And I don't know whether that's a clear tactic that the Sharks want to run with, or whether it's just to give Hines a little bit more time and space to think about what he's doing. But I think Hines just thrives when he's got ball in hand, and it might not be a set play every single time, and sometimes it might be off the cuff, but that's often where he does his best work. We saw early in the season he just sliced between 2 defenders and got over the line out of nothing. So I think Hines, get the ball in his hand, give him a bit more work, let Trindle just sit back and control the team and let Hines do all the work with the ball in hand. The good thing to back up Hines is at least we can fall back on his 40 points, average of 40 points in base through tackles, running meters, and kicking meters. Plus, he's got that goal kicking ability as well. We know the Sharks are a pretty heavy attacking side, and they like to score points. So, we know that we're going to get that additional kicking goals from Hines. So, yeah, I do like the Fogarty call, and I'll probably have him in a couple of squads as well. But I think I might give Hines one more. This might be the week of give them one more chance, and if they don't, then it's move on. I think maybe for me.
So, what score does Hines have to get this week for it to be a pass mark? What's a pass mark score for Nicho Hines this week?
Oh, I'd like a 60. I think a 60 plus. Yeah, I think a 60 plus, and that probably means that he's set up a try, and he might even have scored one himself, I think. But that also means that he needs more ball in hand. So, yeah, if that happens, then, yeah, great. If he gets a 40 or between that 40 and 50, maybe I'll be looking elsewhere.
Righto. I like it. How about we get on to the centres, mate? Who are we looking at for your starting centres this week?
Yeah, I think the main one is Valentine Holmes. I think for me that we've seen what we can get from Val Holmes, and he's really improved his game, I think, and particularly from a fantasy perspective. He comes up against a Titans side that's allowed 40 points to left centres so far, which is about 5 points more than the right side. So I think there's probably some vulnerability there as well. And we saw a couple of weeks ago, Bradman Best tore it up and scored, I think, a 71 against them down that Titans left side. So we know they can be vulnerable. Holmes offers that safety as well with his boot and his ability to set up and then score tries. So we've seen him, set up plenty of tries for Tuipulotu on his outside. We've seen Holmes score a couple as well. So the thing for me, though, is his consistency in limiting his demerits. Last season, he played the Titans twice for a combined 99 fantasy points. However, in those 2 games, he missed 2 tackles, 5 errors, and 1 penalty just in those 2 games. So that score could have been a lot higher across those 2 combined games. I think he's something like 2 missed tackles and 1 error or something along those lines this season. He's really turned a corner, I think, with those demerits. And I think I'm happy to play him each and every week now, knowing that he should still have a decent score come the end of the game, even if he hasn't had a lot of attacking stats.
Yeah, the Dragons are certainly moving a lot of footy to the left as well, which is just another reason that Val Holmes should see plenty of ball in good attacking space, and we obviously know that he's a pretty good sharpshooter with the footy on the tee as well. So they're going to score plenty of points against the Titans that are pretty leaky, and the ball's going to be on his way a lot. So Gutho, Holmes, Tuipulotu, that could be a pretty big stack for a lot of coaches as well. They could probably expect a lot of points coming their way from those 3. Yeah. So Val's down on the averages list, obviously due to sort of those demerits playing a bit of a role. He did have the 3 errors in the most recent game, but only 3 across the 3 or 4 games before that as well. So he's certainly tightening that area of his game up a little bit, but obviously still got a bit to go. Of the centers available this week, there's still Alamotti, Best, Farnworth, and Garrick above him. So in terms of total averages, he's not there in the top 2. So he could offer a bit of value as a pod, and playing that 4 o'clock game in the gong, I think that's going to be plenty of points, or it might even be an earlier game than that. So the sun will be out. They're at home. I think they've got to score plenty of points. It should be a nice fast track as well. And I think we're going to see a couple other Dragons in my team in the next 2 positions as well. So Val, for both of us, my other centre spot is going to be Herbie Farnworth, who continues to impress. He keeps scoring 50 at least without even scoring a try. The 1 week he did score a try, he got a nice big 77. So he's leading the entire competition of any player with tackle breaks, and he's making 7 a game on average. So that's a massive, 21 points in tackle breaks just for taking the field on average. So that's great for his base. He's 4th overall in offloads for the entire competition with 14 in 5 matches. And on paper, this matchup with Penrith looks really difficult, but they've been super leaky to the left-hand side all season. And we need to look at what happened last week. Purdue and Taulagi sort of run amok down that left-hand side against the Panthers' right defence. And Purdue scored 69 points with a try. So the quality of Farnworth no disrespect to Purge, who's going to have a great career, but Herbie Farnworth is a much better player, and I can see him breaking plenty of tackles as well, and obviously combining with his winger in Bostock there nicely as well. He's obviously got a lot of speed, so if Herbie can find him in a little bit of space, there's some more attack coming his way as well. So the matchup looks tough, and that might sway a few people from playing Herbie Farnworth. But if he's scoring 50 points without a try, he's breaking tackles for fun, and he's playing against a sort of weakened Panthers right-hand side defense who are leaking plenty of points. I think they've let in 140 points, you said. I think they hadn't let that in after 15 or 16 weeks in a season or two ago in one of their big defensive years. So the Panthers outfit is not the same as we're used to. So this narrative of them not being able to play any fantasy players against them is probably long gone now, and I'm going to take advantage of that. And Herbie Farnworth is probably even above Val for me this week.
Yeah, nice. And before I talk about my second centre, I just want to acknowledge Mel. She has clearly highlighted my toxic relationship with Hines. Unfortunately, Mel, I do have a pretty deep relationship with Hines. I think it's his hair. I think that's just what does it for me. I'm a hair and arms guy. So if anyone does want to date me, unfortunately, you'll be dating me and Hines as well. But that's okay. We all live with that. It's just something about his hair. Anyway, we move on. Alrighty, for me, my other centre, I looked at Farnworth, and I really like what he's been doing. And like you said, he's averaging 50 without a try, and then 70 plus if he does get over the line. I'm just nervous about that Panthers lineup and them hurting after 4 losses. And I've already got Max Plath playing, potentially looking JMK as well in some of my teams. I just don't know if the Dolphins are going to be able to overcome the Panthers side after their 4 losses. And I just feel like it could be a massive Panthers game. Although I said that last week, and the Cowboys really turned their season around in one game as well. So, in terms of stats, I sort of went back to and landed on Ruben Garrick again. And I know it's a pretty easy play, and a lot of people will play it, but the only thing for me is that he's playing away from home, and so that's the hard part. Is that he's been playing well at home, and then their record's not amazing when we look at away from home. We've already talked about that. He does line up against Tiroti, though, in the centres, who did miss 4 tackles last week against the Raiders. So there's a potential there, and I've already talked about having Olakuatu in the side and the vulnerability down that edge as well for edges. So I feel like if there's an opportunity there, it might be just a simple line break from Olakuatu and then a handoff to Garrick, and we see him with 1 try or 2 potentially as well. The other thing is that the Sharks are also pretty susceptible to a dangerous half. They've allowed 61 GDS points to right side halves. So DCE there as well, chiming in, and hopefully Garrick's just the beneficiary of all of that. And if he's not, and they score, he's going to be able to kick the goals as well. So I think that upside that he has over Herbie Farnworth this week is probably just the thing that I'm leaning towards in Ruben Garrick. And his scores have been there and thereabouts. So I think, Farnworth has been a little bit better overall, but I think, Garrick's obviously had that one big blow up game, and that just means that we've seen it already. So we know that he can do it again, I guess, and that he's shown us he can score 4 tries in a match and score 100 points for us in GDS. So fingers crossed he does it again this week for me.
He's just got to have a newborn every single week. I think that's the secret, isn't it? Have a child.
Talking about that, Metcalf had a child earlier in the week, so maybe Luke Metcalf is the man to play this week. He might need to get over the line a few times and do the little carrying baby celebration. Change your team.
Just taking out Nathan Cleary now and swapping with Luke Metcalf. What could go wrong? Absolutely nothing. Quick little name on this list that we haven't seen before. He's obviously making his season and club debut. That's Blaze Talungi. He's obviously playing in the halves for them, obviously filling in for Jack Cole, who may or may not get his spot back once he returns from that mandatory stand down due to the concussion, but obviously someone to look at. He's playing out of position there. He's a centre eligible for game day squad, but playing in the halves this week. Probably not someone I can start with much certainty this week when there are the likes of, Garrick and Farnworth, Best and Holmes running around, but certainly someone that we could be talking about a lot more in weeks to come. So I'll certainly be having a look at how he goes and then checking that team list next week and seeing if he features again.
And that's probably a good thing to note now. Keep an eye on him. If you don't have a bronze card now, maybe the time to go and look for one is now, before he does have a big blow-up game, and then you're struggling to find it, like we are with Couchman and Wong. So, yeah, keep your eyes on Talangi and maybe get a bronze card of his or whatever rarity that you need for whatever competition your main focus is. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
Sorry, let's move on.
Speaking of bronze cards that we haven't been able to get our hands on, the Whispers are you finally found yourself a Fletcher Sharp. Is that true?
I did. Thank you to the one and only Mel's Misfits. She was able to hook me up with a Fletcher Sharp. So thank you very much for that. So it means that my dilemma of Sharp and Marju now transfers across from my champion side into my classic side. And that is, again, the difficulty that I faced this week. Both were pretty disappointing, I think, against the Dogs. I mean, the whole Knights team was pretty disappointing against the top of the table Dogs, weren't they, last week? But the boys from Newey are matching up against the Tigers in the final round. So there's an opportunity there to play a little bit of silly buggers come the end of the round and maybe swap Sharp for Marju or Marju for Sharp, depending which way I go, just to throw a little spanner into the works for my GDS Cup opponent. The Tigers have been slightly more vulnerable with their right side defence as well. They've allowed an average of 40 GDS points to all left side attackers. So either one of Sharp or Marju could potentially have a big game. And it's been the wingers really against the Tigers that have done a little bit more damage, scoring an average of 47 GDS points. But I am leaning Sharp, but it could, like I said, I could easily go back and forward between the two. I like Marju for his tackle break ability, his ability to find the line, but then Sharp as well is averaging almost just as many tackle breaks as Marju. Sharp's got that opportunity to set up tries. He's got that opportunity to make more tackles. So I think for me, I think I'm just going to go with Sharp purely based on that better base, a similar tackle break average as Marju, and then the upside of tries and try assists. We've seen both of those from Sharp this season so far. And if Marju does cross the line, then let's just hope that Sharp hands him the ball and he gets that try assist from that try.
Yeah, it's Sharp for me as well. It looked like he had a really poor game. If you're just looking at fantasy numbers, scoring 39 against the Dogs, after scores of 71, 67, 61, but the Knights scored 0. So you can't expect, a half or anyone for that matter to score well when their team's putting on 0 points in the actual game. But he still made his 28 tackles, 4 tackle breaks, and naturally his run game and his attack was quite down in comparison to previous games. So I expect to bounce back, not only from Sharp, but that whole Knights outfit. And when they're on top in a match, that's when he's at his most damaging best, with his ball running, tackle breaking ability, and then finding those damaging players on his outside through Best and Marju, and that's where Marju really benefits as well. So Sharp's been an absolute lock in my team. I don't really mind that 39. If anything, that shows you that's just about his floor. They scored literally 0 points, and he still managed to score 39. There's plenty of winger eligible players that have, glorious matchups on paper, but don't score a try and don't beat 40 as well. So, it's just a shame we can't play too many wingers. We probably don't want to play too many wingers, but it's always that toss-up, Sharp or Marju. If you want to go for a bit of difference and you don't have a Sharp card, Marju is certainly safe there as well. But the winger position is pretty poor this week, particularly with Brian To'o still with that hamstring injury. And obviously Zach Lomax has just gone down with a foot fracture?
Foot fracture. 6 weeks, I think he's out for.
6 weeks recovery time. So that's a big blow for the Eels, but also a big blow for, we were talking just last week about how good it was with Lomax getting a bit of an opportunity to play on the wing. And, that's where he's at his most damaging best. And we finally get him officially named there in the winger jumper. And now he's out for 6 weeks. So it's that second winger spot that obviously you could plug in both of the Knights players. For me, I'm going to partner Sharp up with Tuapolotu and really attack that Dragons versus Titans game. I'll probably be playing Gutho as a fullback as well, and we've already spoken about Val Holmes. So I'm just going to load up with Dragons players and hope Tuapolotu finds the try line as well. He's It's probably not too much confidence in there. He probably does need to score a try or two to have a really fantasy relevant game, but he's been doing okay in terms of his run meters, his tackle breaking ability, and playing outside Val and Gutho on that favourable left edge means it just means that he's more likely to get that attacking stat, and I can see him crossing a couple more times than Marju. That's about the only reason why I've got him just ahead.
Yeah, I like that, attacking that that matchup there. Not that we condone gambling at all, but just having a look at what the bookies think. They reckon there's about 50 points in that game. So there could be a high scoring game there. And I think you're right. Attacking those three in Holmes, Gutho and Tuipulotu, if it is going to be a high scoring game, you should expect at least 2 out of 3 of those players to score pretty well, considering they are going down the left quite a lot. I'm going somewhere completely different, and you can see a name on that screen that we haven't talked about at all this season, and that is Alex Johnson. It is a massive risk for me, but I think it's about time that I took a risk in my fantasy sports, because playing safe is not really the way that I've been able to get up in the ranks. So I am going to take a punt on AJ. I think the big thing is the matchup data. I'll talk about some of the other wingers there and their poor matchup in a moment. But for me, AJ's got probably the best matchup of any winger this weekend. 2 weeks ago, he came back, lasted only 41 minutes, but I don't have too much concern with that. Rested last week. I think he's back fit, firing, ready to go against the Cowboys team that have allowed 52.7 GDS points to left side wingers, which is the most in the competition for any winger. For any of the wingers across the competition. Latrell's named in the halves and will line up on AJ's side, I'm pretty sure. So I'm really hoping that we just get that silky play from Latrell, that long ball from sort of middle side of the field over the top to AJ, and he can get over the line a couple of times. That would just be perfect for me. And I know that's a risk, because really that outside of that, he's probably not going to score many in base. He doesn't make a lot of running meters in terms of hitting the ball back up. He doesn't make a lot of tackle breaks. We know that's not really his game. It's purely just basing it off the opportunity where that right side Cowboys defense has not been great, and hopefully he gets over the line. The other thing I really like, since 2020, Johnson's played the Cowboys 5 times. He scored 7 tries against them. That includes a hat-trick a couple of years ago. So if he can reproduce that in any way, shape or form, I think AJ will be a big league winner for me. It's a massive risk.
That's huge. That's huge. I think, with Latrell being there, it makes it slightly more possible, but he passed 50 just once last season. That's when he scored a double in round 19 against the Dolphins. He scored about 66 fantasy points, but failed to even sort of pass 40 outside of that as well. So massive pod play there. I wish you all the best. I think your opponent who's tuning in is probably licking his lips and rubbing his hands together and thinking about that round 4 prize that he's almost guaranteed himself after getting through this week. But you must have read that Christian Nicolosi article. Did you read that about the Latrell bullet pass for the match winner to Tass traveled at a quicker speed than Usain Bolt? Just vintage journalism, that article. But that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with an elite footballer like Latrell Mitchell that can pass a footy faster than Usain Bolt can reach top speed. So AJ on the end of that, that's bound to result in plenty of tries as well. And AJ would probably liken himself to some speed similar to Usain Bolt. But sadly, I think, the best of AJ is probably well in the past. And I am baffled by that decision, let me say the least. With no disrespect to you or AJ.
Who knows? Come game day, I'll probably change him to Marju. I'll just get too scared and go back to
and then you'll blame me, won't you? Yeah, you'll blame me
exactly
when he scores
right.
a hat-trick. And
exactly right. Oh, it's a big play. I love it. I've put it out there now. I've got to run with it.
Yeah.
Love it. All righty. That is our wingers. Let's move on to fullbacks. And there's plenty to talk about with fullbacks. So you can see 6 names there. And I think any of those 6 would be a great combination to play this week. For me, I've got 3 names. However, I feel like I might change one on the fly. Do you want to kick us off, and then I'll jump in as to who I might be pivoting to?
So those 6 on screen, obviously, Teddy, Ponga, Gutho, Pappy, Latrell, and Dylan Edwards would all be solid plays. I actually like a 7th option there as well in Scotty Drinkwater. I think he would be the biggest pod from that list there. His lowest score is only 41 back in week 1, and that's pretty good for a low floor for a fullback. And we obviously know the Cowboys have been pretty poor all season. He's coming off a 66 and then most recently a 52 last week against the Panthers. He's only scored twice and recorded 4 try assists, and that was sort of the area that he excelled in last season. I think he's led the competition with try assists over the past 2 seasons. So he's down a little bit on those numbers, but still scoring really nicely for GameDay squad. And he's got a really favourable matchup here with the Bunnies, who allow, I think maybe the most points to the fullback position as well. And the big difference in his game between last year and this year is he's obviously goal kicking now with Val Holmes not there and Duffy not in the squad either. So pretty decent matchup against the Bunnies over there in Perth. By all reports, it should be a nice, fast track with decent weather. So you should expect plenty of points there. Drinky's likely to get amongst those points and obviously kicking some goals there as well. So that matchup between him and then Latrell there at 5'8" will be a pretty nice show to watch. And if you had Drinky and Latrell in your GameDay squad fullback position, that could probably reward a lot of coaches as well. So he's really on the cusp for me at the moment. He's breaking plenty of tackles. He's always surpassing that 100 run meters. But I'm going to go the quote unquote safe picks at this stage of a few of those guys we've spoken about already in Gutho, in Ponga, and Pappy. But in saying that, there's obviously still a bit of an injury watch over Pappy. Obviously, need to look at training reports for the Storm this week, and he obviously left the field with 10 or 15 minutes to go, maybe as a bit of a precaution last week since they were so far out in front. But it's never good to see a player with ice strapped around their leg as well. And someone with the injury history of Pappenhausen, it's always cast a bit of doubt for the following week. But, he's likely to be amongst those points when the Melbourne Storm take on the Warriors. So he's just about a lock for me. We've talked about Gutho a number of times this show, or certainly the players outside him in Val Holmes and Tuipulotu. So Gutho was fantastic last week against the Eels, scored 2 himself, but he's just about in everything. He's probably the hardest working player in the competition. He's putting in 100% every single match, regardless of what the score is. He's just great to watch, and I think he's going to get amongst the points again down there at the Gong. Ponga is my third, ahead of Drinky, ahead of Edwards, ahead of Trell at the moment. And you think, no brainer. But if you look at his scores, the last 2 have been pretty worrying, a 33 and a 27 after scoring that 171 to start the season as well. So, look, he's started the season in red hot form. He's had a few down games. Does that mean he's due a bounce back? I hope so. He's got that somewhat favourable matchup with the Tigers, although they do get a couple of good players back in Luai and Skelton. And then we haven't even mentioned Teddy yet, who's just an absolute tackle-breaking machine, who's as hard of a worker as Clint Gutherson is for the Roosters. And if they're going to be any chance against the Bronx there, it's going to be, Teddy getting the ball in his hands 20-plus or 25-plus times and Blake breaking plenty of tackles and probably scoring himself as well. So the fullback position is wide open this round. I think I know my 3, but those 3 could be completely different come, not even 24 hours, but maybe 24 minutes once I reopen the app and have a play around with some of those fullbacks. So which way are you leaning, mate? That probably didn't help anyone, but where are you leaning?
So before coming on the show, I was with Gutho, Pappy, and Edwards.
Okay.
But then I looked a little bit deeper into Drinkwater, and I think he is actually the standout for the week. And I think I might swap Edwards to Drinkwater. I think potentially he's got the best matchup. He's got the best opportunity to score well. And you talked about it. I really like him for similar. He's gone under the radar. I haven't even thought about him at all. Yep. And yet we're talking about a player that excelled last season, that was potentially in origin contention for a little while, who's someone that has probably been a little bit unlucky in his career so far to not have that representative jersey. And he comes up against a Bunnies side this week that, they're vulnerable to the fullback position. They're allowing 61 GDS points to fullbacks. It's the highest across the competition. So I think he's got a really good opportunity, and his points haven't been coming from attacking stats, as you said. We see an increase in that this week in a side who are starting to come into some form. The Cowboys are looking pretty good. They've just touched up the premiers, so I think he could definitely be a pod, and I think he could definitely score well if we get some extra attacking stats. Add to that, against the Bunnies in the last two games, the last two seasons, 5 try assists, 2 line breaks, 16 tackle breaks, almost 400 meters gained and 130 kicking meters combined in those 2 games. So if he gets close to those averages again this week, I think he is a slam dunk play. Like I said, I wasn't playing him before this, but I think after doing that little bit more research, I think potentially he's going to come in for someone like Edwards, who is coming back from injury himself. It might not be a big game. I just don't know how to read the Panthers at the moment. It could go either way. The Dolphins could have an unreal game. The Panthers could come back and avenge those 4 losses in a row. So I think I might just stay away from Edwards, run Drinkwater, and hope he has a massive game, and pair him with those two in Gutho, who, yeah, as you said, he's looking really good. He's averaging 56.7 GDS points for the season. If we take away his first game of 19, his average is sitting closer to 70 GDS points. So, that can't be discounted as well. As you mentioned, he's up against the Titans, who leak a few points, and they've allowed an average of 45 and a half GDS points to fullbacks, which includes a 50 from or just over a 50 from Hammer and Teddy in the last 2 games. So I think Gutho's got every opportunity there. We've talked about the hopefully a fast track, bright sunshine should be an awesome game, and plenty of points on offer. And then the big one for me is going to be Pappenhausen up against the Warriors. I've already talked about the 300 odd points that the Storm have put on the Warriors over the last few years. And I think Pappy's going to have his hands all over the ball throughout this game. I have no concerns with the injury as well. He had that spell, but he kicked 7 goals in that game still. If he wasn't 100% fit and they were concerned in any way, I feel like he wouldn't be kicking goals and he would have come off a lot earlier. So I don't think there's any concern. I'll probably still check up and make sure that he is kicking goals in the warm-up and that he's looking pretty good. The downside is you look at the Warriors and they've been pretty good at limiting fullbacks this season, averaging 40 GDS points to fullbacks, which is sort of middle of the pack. But for me, the key is the last 3 games the Warriors have played, Pappenhausen against them, he's scored an average of 83 fantasy points per game.
Wow.
In the last 3 games. So I think it's a no-brainer. I'm going to play Pappenhausen with plenty of confidence, and I will watch every minute of that game and be completely disappointed at how the Warriors play, but fist pumping every time Pappy, Katoa, and Hughes touch the ball.
Well, you talked me into Jerome Hughes. I think you've convinced me with Scotty Drinkwater as well. Just looking at the draw, and I've taken out Kalen Ponga, so that obviously scares me, not having Ponga in my team, given we know how good he can be, albeit, the last couple of matches have been far from his best, to be honest. But obviously, if there's any injury concern with Pappy, if he's not kicking, if he's limited in any way, it's pretty easy to move on from Pappy during that Sunday 2:00 game to Ponga Sunday 4:00 game. So there's a bit of a get out there, just in case we don't like the look of Pappy, maybe in the warm-up or captain's run on this Saturday. Having Ponga out of the squad, having already played sort of Gutho and Drinkwater, allows a bit of flexibility there in case you want to make that switch if you're not convinced in Pappy's health. But yeah, it looks like we've made a couple of changes to make our teams even more similar, and I think that's the beauty about or not the beauty about having this podcast and chatting to each other, that we give each other all the stats, all the numbers that make sense, obviously, on paper, but whether or not it happens on the weekend is a completely different story. But at least I've got someone I can blame if those blokes don't go so well. And if Ponga gets another 100, expect an angry DM in your inbox still.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, and look, I know we're pushing for time, but I'm going to throw out one more pod option in the fullback position. It's a bit of a risk as well because they do play Thursday night, but another one is potentially Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow against the Panthers. You think the Panthers going to remain in that slump. You think the Dolphins are going to get up, and I think the hammer might have a lot to do with it. The Panthers have allowed an average of 53 GDS points to fullbacks. And some of the notable scores against them is Teddy 65, Jai Gray 65, and then just recently we talked about Drinky getting 52. So if you like the hammer, you think that the Panthers are not going to bounce back yet, maybe that's another potential pod option as well. I don't mind it. If they weren't playing Thursday night, I'd be more interested. But for me, I think there's plenty of other options there as well. But I would like that pod play too.
Yeah, nice one.
Perfect. All right, let's get into Bro Down Showdown. And unfortunately for me, once again, there's our teams first before we move on. A couple of changes, obviously, to that potentially on the fly. And as you can see, Stewie's been eliminated, and I am still in the GDS Cup up against Satan Yahoo. And as I said, I've done a little bit of research on him, and let's hope that I can overcome him and get into the next round. We will see. As I said, Bro Down Showdown, unfortunately, I took another L. My persistence with Nico Hines did not pay off once again. May just outscored Haas in that pretty disappointing game. Cleary had a massive one, even though they went down. And then Teddy had a good game. Sharp had a down game. So it is 2-1 to Stu. That means he will be picking from my cards that I've just pre-opened here in a 3-player rare pack. So Stu, you are going to pick 3 cards. But before we do that, let's get to the wheel. And these people on the wheel today commented and they picked Stu to win. So we're going to spin the wheel and let's see who is going to be lucky enough to get one of the cards from this pack here. Alrighty, and I think this person commented live during the show. It is Nathaniel. So Nathaniel, I'm pretty sure you, like I said, you commented live. So if you are watching this, make sure you hit us up on Discord or Instagram to organise the cards. Alrighty, Stu, can you see those cards on your screen?
Can see it, mate. And Nathaniel, I'm going to give him the card in the middle. So Nathaniel, this will be your card, buddy.
All right, it is a gold. And it is Blake Brayley, someone we talked a lot about. Could be perfect for a classic or a challenger side. Great pull there. Well done, Nathaniel. That is yours. Alrighty, let's see what else you've got here, mate. Yep. What have we got? Gold Tino.
Ooh, I like that.
Not bad. He's obviously got the week off this week, but should be good coming in soon. And then another gold, Toby Sexton.
All right.
Well,
beautiful. I might give a bit back to the viewers here. If anyone currently in the live chat wants a gold Tino Fa'asuamala Awe card, it's a bit of a thank you. Jump onto the Discord server, find me, Stewie at FantasyBros, and message me saying Tino. First person to do that, and the gold Tino is yours. So if you're not on the Discord yet, make sure you download you jump into the GameDay Squad Discord server. It's a great server. Plenty of good banter in there. Plenty of good people there willing to share some advice and give you some cards if you're short on them. Jump on there, find me, message me Tino, and he is yours. Dill, we've gone a little bit different for the Bro Down Showdown. You were crying out for a change in the rules, given the one-sided scoreline. Do you want to tell the people what we're doing? They're still going to be getting cards, obviously, but how are we doing things differently?
Yep. So we're still sticking with the 3 positions. We are now mixing it up. So each week before the show, we will randomly spin the wheel and get 3 positions that we will have to pick from. So just before we went live, we spun the wheel and it came up with center, middle, and edge. So we are now going to pick our 3 players based on those positions. So you can see here, I've gone Val Holmes, Adam Fanua-Blake, and Ali Katoa. So centre, middle, and edge. And then Stu has picked Farmworth, Yo, and Couchman. So all of the players that we spoke about, we're going head-to-head again. So if you're new to Bro Down Showdown, we go head-to-head. You can comment in the chat who you think is going to win the week. Either one of us is going to win 3-0 or 2-1. Whoever wins 2-1 receives, or 3-0, wins a pack from the other player. And if it's 2-1, it means that 1 goes to the viewers if you comment the correct winner. So obviously you just saw Nathaniel there come away with an awesome card in gold, Blake Brayley, and then Stewie doing a good bloke thing and chucking Tino up as well. Hopefully your DMs are flooded already. So those are our picks this week. So if you think I'm going to get up with Holmes Fanua, Blake and Katoa, you comment Dill. If you think Farmworth, Yo and Couchman are going to do me in again, then you comment Stu. I'm pretty happy not to see Hines' name up there and don't have to write him again.
Yeah, I like this format, mate. We get to pick from a couple of different positions. It was sort of always a middle, a half, and a fullback, but that wheel is going to decide our fate there, and we might be putting our hopes in a couple of other positions. I'm spewing we didn't spin winger, otherwise it would have been a guaranteed 1-0 to me, because you would have certainly gone for AJ, and I just would have needed to pick anyone else playing.
He's going to get negatives. Okay. Love it. All right, Mel loves it too. She's commented and said, "Oh, it's way different." So I hope that's a good thing, Mel. Different usually means good in my books, so I love that. Alrighty, that is it. That is our show for Wednesday night. It did go a little bit longer, but we were having too much fun and talking about some unreal players. Hopefully, you got a bit out of it. If you did, make sure you give us some love and go over to our YouTube channel. If you're not already on there, give us a follow, a subscribe. I think Mel pointed out today we're at about 80 subscribers. So maybe let's throw it out there. If we get to 100, we might do a giveaway for all of our subscribers and our listeners and watchers as well. You can catch us on Spotify or on Apple Podcast as well. That is the FantasyBros, the GameDay Squad Rugby League or NRL Fantasy Show. You can search up those and find us there. So if you couldn't watch the whole thing live, you can watch it back on YouTube or listen on the go tomorrow or throughout the weekend. And that'd be awesome. If you could also give us a like, follow, etc. on all of our other socials, Instagram, TikTok, it is at FantasyBrosAU. And don't forget, if you are a new user, make sure you sign up using our promo code FBRL25. You'll get those 3 9-player common packs. There'll be plenty of commons in there. You'll be rewarded with heaps of bronze as well. And then you can hit us up and we'll have plenty of spare cards that we'll be happy to offload. And that goes to everybody too. If you're in the chat and you need a particular card, except for Couchman and Sia Wong, we cannot help you there, but we should be able to help you with most others. Mate, it's been another awesome show. I'm looking forward to the weekend and looking forward to next week, which is Wednesday, April 16th. I'm actually going to be down the Gold Coast, so I'll be coming to you live from the beach. I'll be having my feet up.
Oh,
it'll be good.
But I'll be nice. All right. Thanks very much, Dill.